Hello everyone, Lewis Weber with Behavior Care. This is segment 2 with TPS training version 731. In the first training we talked about how to set up TPS, enter some data, maybe make some notes, use the p-value. In this segment we're going to talk about the data sheets. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 data sheets, and you say, well, what about data sheet number 3? That one was deleted for this version, and I didn't want to rename these other data sheets because I didn't want anyone to be confused, because everything would have shifted, and I will try to keep things as clear as possible. So I left them 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 and just dropped out the data sheet number 3. But you'll become very familiar with these as you use them, because once you start using a data sheet, you tend to keep that data sheet going. And I'm going to talk about a couple of these. I don't know if we're going to get to all of these. I want to get you up and running in data collection. So let's start with data sheet number 1, which is the one that I like the best. And I'll tell you why I like it the best, is because it gives me 5 days. Let's make it bigger again. It gives me 5 days of data for each page. Now you can see I've already entered data for the first week of school, and so it's showing up here. And so in order to get a fresh data sheet, I'll need to use the Monday of the next week, which in this case is going to be 8/21. So let's put that right there, and what you'll see in just a moment is that everything's going to go away in terms of the numbers that were already entered, and it resets the first day of this data sheet. Now I'm going to make this small, and in doing so this is going to start to do the hashtag thing, because the resolution of the monitor isn't enough to reproduce all that text in this kind of position. So just bear with me on that. And I know that you can't see much of this at all, but I want to illustrate that here are again the 12 students that are available. And if we go to the right, we'll see the final one, and there he is, student number 12. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and when you print, this is page 1, this is page 2, and so forth. And we're going to make that point again in just a second, but to make it larger again so you can see what's going on, you can see that we're using a 0 to 3 rating scale, and the X's are when the cells are not used. Now you'll note that these X's were automatically supplied in data entry. We talked about that in the first segment, and they show up here. We're also not using these rows for academic blocks, so there are X's there. But what about this N? The N is used for special occasions when data were not available to be collected because the opportunity wasn't there. Now there are 2 ways to handle that. You can put nothing there and just leave it blank because there was no opportunity, or you can put an N just so that when someone looks at the data sheet at another time, you don't have to wonder if you forgot to put something in there or not, because a blank could mean no chance for data collection, or it could mean you forgot to collect data. So if you put an N there, it means no chance, and that way we don't have to worry about it. Now some teachers use it, some teachers don't. I just want you to know it's available. And blanks mean no data because there was not an opportunity. So let's say that Pete came late, maybe during math, because he was some kind of doctor's appointment. Okay, and what you can do is leave these blank, or you can put the N's in there. You decide what level of accountability you want for your data, but you have options here is the point. And again, the X's are just not used at all. You'll note that we have for Pete are 2 increasing and 1 increasing target behavior, and here are his academic blocks, and there's some spaces for notes. And when we look at this, kind of make like a little memory thing going on, remember this, it is very similar to this. Of course, it looks the same, it's supposed to, so it makes it easy to, well, if we go to a fresh day, let's say right here, it'll be easy to take the data sheet, hold it up, and then just enter the data as you see it. Now, because it looks so much alike, let me go over here, because it looks so much alike, sometimes people want to click on the DS1 to enter the data. But if you try to click here, you're unable to because the screen is locked. This tab is locked. So it looks so much like it that people sometimes think it's data entry, but it's not for you to enter data, it's for you to print out a data sheet. And this is a really great way to collect data. Maybe you keep it on a clipboard and you have it for all your students that are being monitored by TPS. And then when you're done with the data, of course, a day or the week or whatever frequency of entering data you're going to do, you can put it in that student's file, and it's a great hard copy. And sometimes you really want that. And of course, any notes that you have here would be then entered in the notes section. Now the notes do continue on. I'm just going to type some letters here, and I want to point this out. Okay, it'll start to run into Corey's, but not after you hit enter. Once you hit enter, it's going to be hidden behind his, so you can type a bunch of stuff if you wanted to during arrival. I would like to say you can keep it till about that point when you type it. So if we were to do it again, I'll just use some different letters. Try to keep your text to about that point, just so that it doesn't get chopped off anywhere. And then of course when you enter it, it gets hidden, but it is still there. Now when I click on that, you'll know it comes up here. Now actually, as I am doing this video, I just realized you can work it all the way to the end up here. So limit it to your formula entry bar. That's what this thing is called right here, this formula entry bar. And so when you hit enter, it's going to be hidden behind Corey's data, but it does stay up here. So that gives you a lot of text. That's a lot of stuff to write about something that occurred during ELA. I find in practice even this amount right here is enough. Okay, enough about that. Let's go back to data entry. So we put in Monday's school day. It populates each of these with a different day, and use Monday's school day even if Monday is not, use Monday's date even if Monday is not a school day. And the reason why is there's always going to be 5 academic blocks. And so if, let's see, I'm looking at my calendar, October 16th is professional day. So if I put October 16th, what's going to happen is TPS knows that October 16th is no school, and it puts these hash marks in its place. So you can't enter it here, but the 17th is, and so it picks it right up. So put Monday's date, so the first block in this 5 block display is always going to be Monday, even if there's no school there, and it just blocks it out. It would be the same if Friday was no school. You get the hashtags. All right. So with that being said, when you go to print it, which is what this is designed to be, what it's designed to be done with it, you go print. Now you'll note that once it gets done displaying here, and we call this the print dialog screen, it says 1 to 12. And if you click through here, you can see each student's page, but we don't have anything past Justin, so only 3 data sheets are available. All right, that displays the sheets, but here is where you need to say I only want to, let's say, to print 1 through 3. So it's important to do that. If you don't put 1 to 2 in your settings for pages, you're going to get 12 data sheets. So it can be pretty wasteful. So remember, only put in the pages that you want printed. Now maybe you only want page 3. So it would be page 3 to page 3. Let's say that would be only just in cases data. Sheet, that is. All right, and once you print that, now you have a very useful data sheet for collecting behavior throughout the day. You have academic blocks. It's very handy. Okay, that's data sheet 1. I like it the most because it could be filed in a student's folder. And the reason why I'm making that statement is because if you go to DS2, what you have is 5 students on 1 page. So that's another option for you. So when we go to File and then Print, you can see that there are 3 pages right here. So here's one student, here's the next student, here's Pete's, here's Corey's, and here is Justin's data. We only have 3 students, so this one's going to be blank. So on a particular day that you select, it will print the data sheet for all the students. And if you have more, it would be on the page 2 and page 3. Now the problem with this is, of course, you got to print it each day, which is something you have to remember to do. And then when you file it, it'll be in a general file folder just called data sheets, for example, because you can't file it in an individual student's file folder unless you're going to start chopping these things up and put Pete's in his file and Corey's in his file and so forth. So personal preference, some teachers like it. I find in general teachers like the datasheet one. Now there's some other data sheets here. This one we're going to skip. It was designed originally for middle school students, but we have other versions of TPS that are even more convenient than that. And let's skip DS5. DS6 is a handy data sheet. It's 1 day and makes it real big. So let's go File and Print. And we can see we have, again, our 12 students, but we're only looking at the first 3 because we only have 3 students that we've entered any kind of information on. What's nice about this is it's a 1-page thing for teachers to record. It gives them a lot of space, and they circle the number. So it's pretty convenient. And then these little symbols here are just placeholders instead of X's. DS7 does the smiley sad face thing, and again you can enter the date that you want printed, but what you can also do is say, I don't want the dates to show up at all. Now let's get rid of that and I'll show you what I mean. So if I do that, then it'll be the date right here because it's corresponding to the blue box. But maybe I just want to print a bunch of them and have teachers or aides enter the date because that's all they need to do on this data sheet as far as what would go into this block. And so instead of printing putting a date and then printing it and putting the next date and then printing it and so forth, which can be a little tiresome, I'll just say, you know what, I don't want the dates to show up here, and when it prints it'll be blank, and then all you do is write in the date of the data collection. So it's just the only difference that does is it puts the date here, but because it's this particular day, if I were to print another one, I then would have to go for tomorrow 8:15, and that may not be your choice you want to make. So by putting the N there where it says do you want to print the date on the data sheets, and if you put no, it leaves this blank, so you can maybe make 20 or 30 of them, and it's a convenient thing to do. And DS8 is a data sheet where you're collecting only once a day kind of data, and you can see here we have the N for when there was no opportunity. Now you can just ignore these spots here because there's no increasing or decreasing targets, so you just ignore that, and you just have the teacher circle the 0, 1, 2, or 3, or N if there was no opportunity. And this is 1 data point a day, so there's just a data sheet made for that need, a very specialized need. Most of the time we're looking at multiple academic blocks. Of course, you can use this too. If you only had 1 academic block listed, it would be the same thing. The advantage of the DS8 is you can fit more single days on 1 data sheet. So when you print this, you can see you've got all of these days listed on the data sheet. So it makes it more efficient if you're going to be recording 1 data point a day to just use this kind of data sheet. Okay, there you go. Data sheet printing, and once you've entered the numbers, let's just go back to DS1. Once you've printed this out and entered the numbers on these pieces of paper, then you just go right to data entry, enter the data, you're good to go. All right, well, Lewis Weber again here for Behavior Care. Hope this was informative to you. I'm looking at my little timer, 14 minutes and 53 seconds. That wasn't too bad. Thanks again for listening, and I hope your TPS data collection is efficient and effective. Thanks again.